Hi guys, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Devil Zaresha Dimitri. I'm from class B. Today I will be presenting about my understanding in what's the topic again? Cognitive linguistic, psycholinguistic, neurolinguistic, and clinical linguistic. I probably won't remember much about this, so I will read some of the points and then I will explain it to you guys. So the first one is psycholinguistic. It's the language and the mind. It explores the relationship between language and the human minds. It investigates how acquire, process, understand, and produce language. Yes. And then the key areas of exploration is first of all the language acquisition, which we learned about 2 weeks ago. It's about how children learn language, the stages of development, and the influence of the social interactions. How how the children learn language, of course, from the interaction of surroundings around the children. And then there is language production. It's how we create and express language, from forming sentence to communicate to each other, forming sentence and to communicating to each other with that language. And then there's reading. Reading is how we decode and comprehend written language, the process of recognizing letters and forming words and understanding meaning. You can't just read with just reading the words. You have to understand the meanings, which I am not probably doing right now. And then next is language and thoughts, how language shapes our thoughts and influence our understanding of the world. In reading, in language and reading, maybe we can change how we see the world by communicating and speaking, right? We can learn much from communicating with other individuals. And then the example of psycholinguistic research is studies on the development of grammar in children. It investigates how children acquires the rules of grammar, how they learn different tenses, and how their language skills develop over time. They what's the word again? It investigates how the children, how the process of the children learning the language, from the grammar, the tenses, and how well they speak the language skills. And then there's experiment on sentence comprehension, use eye tracking and brain imaging technique to study how people process sentence and understand their meaning. Use eye tracking and brain imaging technique. Okay, don't really get that one. And then there's analysis of language error, examining slips of the tongue and mispronunciation and other language error. How in English we sometimes mispronounce. How sometimes we really read the words. Meanwhile, in English, sometimes we don't say some of the letters in English. For example, like just now, some people in my friends still say letters. Meanwhile, I think it's supposed to be pronounced letters, right? And then the next is neurolinguistics. It investigates the neutral mechanism underlying language. It seeks to understand how the brain processes language. The specific brain regions. I don't know how that pronounced actually. Regions involved in language function. It definitely focuses more on the brain, right? What's the difference between the psycholinguistic and the neurolinguistic? I don't know. And then there's the key areas of exploration, brain regions and linguistic, in the identifying and specific brain, areas responsible for different aspects of language comprehension and recognition. And then there's neural networks for language, understanding how different brain regions work together to process language. This is definitely more to the like brain, right? The neurolinguistic, meanwhile the psycholinguistic is more like the mental, I guess. Oh no, more like the mind. Yes, that's different, definitely different. And then there's language disorder, investigating the causes and effect of language disorder. And then there's example of neurolinguistic research, brain imaging studies, and then there's studies on patients with brain damage. Wow, that's definitely interesting. And neurolinguistic studies on language. I think it definitely, with the brain, they tested the brain on something, I guess. And then the last one of our topic is the clinic linguistic, applies linguistic principle and methods to the diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of communication disorder. I think that's more like the medical things, the clinical definitely more like of the medical linguistic. Key of exploration, assessment, and diagnosis using linguistic principle and tools to assess an individual communication skills. And then there's intervention and therapy, designing and implementing treatment programs to improve communication skills such as speech therapy, language therapy, and auditory training. And then there's research and development, and then the example of the clinical linguistic, speech language pathologist, audiologists, and language therapists. I think we can see the difference between the psychologist, neurolinguistic, and the clinical linguistic. Psycholinguistic is more like the process, or the more basic one. It's explore between the language and the human mind. Meanwhile, the neurolinguistic is more like the brain. You investigate the brain during the process of the language, right? And then the clinical linguistic is more like the diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of communication disorder. It more to be like more like the medical situation. Okay, I guess that's all for today. I hope that I will understand it while discussion, I guess, because right now I barely understand this topic. Okay, that's all. Thank you. Bye bye.